My name is George K.L. Smith. Ended up serving 24 years, 9 months. I was born in Compton, California, 1978. A young person in the city of Compton, didn't really know that we were poor at that time. It was kind of like the norm. It wasn't a comfortable environment for a kid, right? And my earliest memory is being 6 years old, right? And I think at 6 years old, it kind of set the pace for the rest of my life. The very first time that I'm introduced to my own personal trauma, right? After this, I recognized that I became an introvert in this community where gang culture exists, machoism is there, the big brash people, the gang members, and I just didn't fit, even at 6 years old, trying my best to fit with the other children. Single mother, absentee father, there's a continuum of people coming in and out of the house. My mother's house was often the refuge for my uncles, the men that she entertained. They're coming from prison and they're coming there. At 6 years old, she takes us, drops us off at the neighbor's house. At 6 years old, I'm forced to drink pee from a styrofoam cup by a 14-year-old boy and his brother. In that moment, that became the turning point for the rest of my life, I believe. And I kind of started navigating through the community that way, navigating through the world that way. At 6, 7, 8 years old, you're not supposed to be making these decisions for yourself. But I felt like I couldn't trust anybody with the truth of what had been happening to me. So I kind of went through the world just like that. 10 different schools, 10 different cities by the time that I was 17 years old. Each place that my mother would move us to, new identity. And I continually had the same mindset. What do I need to do to fit in this space? How do I survive in this space? With nobody to talk to. So, 17 years old, my mother moves us back to Compton, California, 16 years old, excuse me. Almost a year later, I'm sentenced to double life plus 44 years for the murder of a beautiful young man that I had never met in my life. So when I got to prison, the very first thing that I was supposed to do, I did. Identify the people, the gang members that are from the same place as me. So that's what I did. I went to find them immediately, and you find your space with them. Rehabilitation was not a part of the conversation. At that time, it was just California Department of Corrections in the first place when I came through, right? Though rehabilitation existed, it wasn't something that I sought after, so I didn't know it existed. I just knew they had the church, the Muslim services, and the GED or educational building, right? So I wasn't really into programming. In 2012, June 3rd, I was trying to smuggle drugs into the visiting room. I had done it so often, right? This time it just went terribly wrong. And this time it involved other people. My little brother, who's my cellie at the time, 235 years to life, and his girlfriend, my girlfriend at that time, and a couple other people. Endangered everybody. Anyway, long story short, I'm caught on camera. And in the process of being caught on camera, they have what's called potty watch, where you have to sit, through the process of someone watching you, an officer watching you until you defecate 3 times and they find nothing in your bowels, you can go, right? In your stool, then you can go. But what happened was I almost died in the process trying to get rid of the drugs. The mindset of not to get caught exceeded or superseded my own life to the point where I'm eating my own feces trying not to get caught, right? So methamphetamines and heroin collided in my body in the process of me trying to get rid of it, to the point where I became paralyzed on my right arm. I couldn't even move it. And that was my rock bottom. When I was a little boy, my grandmother used to always tell us about Jesus, right? And I didn't understand it then, But that day, sitting in ADSEG, I had gotten rid of all the drugs, and the only thing I didn't want was to be removed from my little brother, to be separated from my little brother. And my grandmother told me, man, and anytime you have that situation where you're feeling hopeless, call out on God, call out on Jesus, and he'll come. And I did that. And it became the impetus or the driving point to my change. So when I get back to the cell, they put us back in the cell, me and my little brother on the main line, and I paralyzed. I couldn't go out with the fellas. Typically, I would just go work out, right? But I had made this promise to God, I'll do anything, just don't separate me from my little brother. So I went to church, and they're like, man, you're not gonna go to church. I went to church. I started hearing something that fed me, that I needed, right? And then with these people that had been attending church, these brothers that had been going to church, they had also been going to rehabilitative programming, alternative to violence, wellness, cage your rage, life without a crutch, things I had no idea even existed until I found myself with this new group of people. And I liked it. They were signing up for groups. The laws hadn't changed yet. I think Senate Bill 260 and things like that were just coming into play. As a juvenile, it would have fit me, you know? But I went and I heard something other than the conversation that I have with the fellas on the yard. I heard something other than violence and hustle and death and let's get drunk and high. I heard, man, bro, there's another way to think, right? There's an alternative to the way you've been thinking. SB 260 came, giving juveniles a second chance at a board and things of that nature. They're talking about the brain is not developed until a certain age, right? And I went to a consultation hearing, I believe it was in 2013. By this time I had attended a few groups. And this deputy commissioner, it was the first time in the entirety of my incarceration, it was like maybe 17, 18 years into my sentence, had I ever heard that I had a chance to go home. She told me, she's like, young man, I see the troubles you've been through, but you can go home. Don't let this discourage you. So you have 6 years until the actual board date before, when I went to the consultation hearing. 6 years later, you will be appearing before the board. Suddenly someone's telling me you have hope. If you do these things, young man, you can leave this place. You can leave this environment. And if you do these things, not only will you leave this environment, you can thrive in the natural place that you're supposed to be, which is society. And that's exactly what I did. I started learning. It was my birthday, August 8, 2012. I left the gang. I'm out. That was my birthday present. Scared as hell, but I did it. I went to board November 2020. I was found suitable. My very first time. The commissioners, the district attorney really applauded me for my rehabilitative efforts. February 11th, 2021, I was released, right? My baby sister, my niece and my nephew came and got me, took me to Subway. And the biggest decision of my life, second biggest decision of my life, was to not go back to where I came from, to remove myself from Los Angeles, Compton, Riverside, anything of that nature. And I went all the way up north, right? And when I get there, it's new, I don't know anybody, but it offers me an opportunity at a newness. So it was time, after hustling and bustling to get the identification that I needed to work, I show up on Option Recovery Services doorstep, start working for 90 days as a contracted employee, right? Just to, see if it's a good fit for me and for them. And then they took me on as a full-time hire. Though I was still in transition, I had a parole officer and things of this nature. Bills started coming in, so now it's time for the first time in George's life to be responsible as it relates to bills and tending to myself outside of the construct of the institution. And I didn't stop doing the things that I had been doing inside. Going to church, reaching out to NA, AA services and things like that, continuing in that same momentum of rehabilitation. Our CEO, we have a nonprofit called Authors Inside. We publish books for free for incarcerated and formerly incarcerated. So that also gave me a new fire, right, to promote the fact that we would like to give people an opportunity for hope, healing, in the recidivism, man, by teaching people to write their stories, get their emotions, their feelings on paper. And I just start thriving in different places. Guy on I Am, I once was, now I am. It's an interactive workbook to encourage people to address their criminal thinking and their gang behavior, right? To really reset their moral compass by, again, looking at their behavior. I wrote that in the process, not just by myself, my co-author, Otis Green III. We wrote it at a time where the non-designated program facilities were being mandated throughout the state. In the process of it, we had created a program called GROW. Growth reinforces our worth, with the hopes of having the very first peaceful transition throughout the state of California. I'm also OMCP, Offender Mentor Certification Program. Became a drug and alcohol counselor, Otis as well. So here we are with this wealth of information. Let's find a way to help the people around us. And as a result, man, we had the most peaceful transition throughout the state of California, with respects, of course. So when we wrote that, it's like, man, let's give people what we had, an interactive ability, man, to really change the way they think, challenge what they think, and prevent themselves from thinking that way again. And I don't mean to throw my faith in people's faces. I'll just say from my experience, the greatest thing that my faith gave me as a Christian was an immediate separation from everybody that wasn't doing what I, according to my faith, right? Separate yourself. Be authentic to you. Be authentic to the things that you tell your children. Be authentic to the society, man, that needs us. We are in an interdependent and an interpersonal relationship with the world. I came home and I realized that the world needs what I have. Even in its smallest sense, people need what you have. You have value, you have worth, and they need it. The world is hurting and suffering. Stay on the right path. If you're not real, if it's not true, man, be honest to yourself and step out the way. But I encourage you to take a look at it, because you can be better than that. January 2021, my latest book, Butterflies and Bumblebees, Beauty That Hurts, book of poetry came out. I wrote this while I was incarcerated. And I want to share this poem called I Come in Peace. Feeling alien, not as if society alienated me, but because I was committing domestic terrorism against the very occupants of planet Earth. I was living inside of a society that was governed by rules, laws, and established means in order for the entire race of humanity to coexist. Yet I have behaved as if I was not a hostile creature functioning within an atmosphere or planet that simply was not my own. So why care about its inhabitants? Why not destroy everything in it? This may seem considerably manipulative, being that my past actions suggest that I could have no invested interest in this planet. But dear beautiful people of this marvelously constructed earth, I come in peace. I did not see that I was destroying what was meant for us to survive from, love from, function from. I wish that rehabilitation was being taught in the 5th grade or perhaps sooner. Perhaps to rehabilitate other aliens I learned a lot of my behavior from. CDCR has assisted in correcting my perceptions, beliefs, and values. I can imagine that doesn't sound too cool to the ex-homeboys or even fundamentally sound or appropriate. Perhaps it suggests that I had to come to prison in order to be rehabilitated. I get it. But what I'm saying is that I committed a crime, the severest against our beautiful race of humanity, as if I were not one of you beautiful people. My crimes put me in a prison where it appeared my kind were. The aliens had met again, confined to our space, comfortable upon the race with similar scars, traced and deceptive traces of, this world is not our place, sprawled upon one another's face. But something changed. I've learned so much in a rehabilitated state. I am no longer behaving from a narcissistic place. I no longer condone hate, destruction of person, thing, or any instance for instance or case. I love your beautiful human face. I admire that through CDCR's rehabilitative space, I've discovered that I too look exactly like you do. Pimple for pimple, pupil for pupil, eyes, ears, soul, spirit, property, job, degrees earned, sobriety learned, truth yearned, criminality placed in the mental urn and viewed from a place of what once was. The time draws near where reconciliation with society will take place. I'm sorry for the pain I've caused you, dear humanity, but I've learned. And I come in peace. No longer alien, we come in peace.